Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a deep plunge into the fascinating, often really perplexing world of one of the most talked about public figures of our time, Elon Musk. You see his name everywhere, you hear the headlines, but who is this man, really?
Yeah, it's a huge question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because his public image is just so complex, so contradictory sometimes. And what really jumps out, I think, is how much of what we perceive about him today seems rooted in a truly unique and often pretty challenging early life.
Absolutely. And our mission today really is to be your shortcut to understanding the man behind all those headlines. We've sifted through just a mountain of sources, articles, research, you name it, to try and pull back the curtain on, the truth, the darkness, and the reality of his public persona. We're extracting the most important nuggets, about his early life, the empires he's built, his complex relationships, and let's be honest, the incredible chaos he seems to almost court sometimes. So let's unpack this. To really understand Elon Musk, I think we absolutely have to start in the very beginning. He was born Elon Reeve Musk, June 28, 1971, in Pretoria, South Africa. His father, Errol Musk, was a wealthy electromechanical engineer. And his mother, May Musk, a Canadian-South African dietitian and model.
And the key takeaway here, I think, is his unique childhood. He was undoubtedly brilliant, yes, but also deeply introverted. And kind of heartbreakingly often bullied. Our sources paint this picture of a really difficult environment. There's even mention he was once hospitalized after being severely beaten by classmates, thrown downstairs. His ultimate refuge really was found in books and computers.
Wow. That's a harrowing image. And how much do you think, do our sources suggest that early trauma, that need for refuge in the digital world, truly shaped the man we see today? Did it maybe instill that almost singular focus? Because, at just 12 years old, he uses that intellect, creates and sells a video game called Blastar.
It seems like a powerful connection to make, doesn't it? That early vulnerability, the escape into the logical world of computers. It looks like it cemented a pattern. This period also seems to lay the groundwork for what became a very, very strained relationship with his father. Elon himself has described him as evil. Other accounts call Errol cold, abusive. And this dynamic appears to be just a persistent thread throughout Elon's life, influencing his drive, maybe even his approach to leadership.
He eventually left South Africa, right? Moved to Canada at 17, and later landed at the University of Pennsylvania studying physics and economics. And here's a classic Musk detail from his student days. You hear this story a lot. He famously lived in a house with basically no furniture, just a mattress. And to pay rent, he'd turn it into a sort of nightclub on weekends. Even then, he was thinking big, right? Articulating these clear ambitions, the internet, space, and renewable energy. What he called the 3 things that will most affect humanity's future.
Yeah, that intense drive, that focus on huge impact from such an early age.
Yeah.
It really sets the stage for a remarkably complex personal life, too. It seems like the boundaries between his ambitions and his relationships often blur,
Speaking of complex, let's maybe dive into his personal life and relationships, because they've certainly had a significant impact on his public persona. He married Justine Wilson in 2000.
Right, that marriage lasted 8 years.
Yeah.
And they had 6 children together.
Yeah.
Tragically, their first child died at just 10 weeks old, which is just awful. The others, twins and then triplets, were born via IVF. And Justine later offered some really telling insights into their relationship. She described him as controlling, emotionally cold, and obsessed with legacy.
Oof. Then came 2 marriages and, 2 divorces with the British actress Tallulah Riley, which certainly adds another layer of maybe intensity to his romantic history.
And of course, other high-profile relationships followed, most famously probably with Amber Heard and the musician Grimes.
Yes, with Grimes. That's when we saw the names of their children spark just global curiosity, didn't they? You remember XAA12, right? But then it was revealed they had others, including a daughter named Exa Darksiderail and another child named Technomechanicus. These names almost became memes themselves. It really demonstrates his unconventional approach to, pretty much everything.
And what's fascinating here is that as of 2025, our sources indicate he has at least 11 children. With different partners, including the Neuralink executive Siobhan Zelis. And he explicitly states his reason for having so many children is, quote, doing his part to fight population collapse.
Right. But critics, on the other hand, they interpret it quite differently. They suggest he's obsessed with legacy, maybe even immortality. And this tension between his public sort of altruistic justification and the more personal, perhaps ego-driven interpretation, it really reveals a core duality in Musk's public persona, where even deeply personal choices get framed through this lens of grand world-saving narratives. So these deeply personal choices and the intense public scrutiny they invite, How do they feed into that relentless drive we see in his business ventures? Is his personal life just another manifestation of that same huge ambition?
I think absolutely. His personal motivations seem undeniably intertwined with his empire building. In fact, when we look at his monumental business ventures, the line between genius and almost reckless risk addiction often gets very blurry.
Okay, let's start with the early wins then. His first company, Zip2, founded in 1995. It was a digital city map directory, basically. He sold it in 1999 for $307 million, netting him a tidy $22 million. Not a bad start for a young guy who once turned his house into a nightclub for rent money, right?
Not bad at all. Then came X.com, his online bank, which later became PayPal after a merger. And he was famously ousted as CEO before PayPal was sold to eBay for $1.5 billion. But he still pocketed a significant $180 million from that deal. It showed a pattern, I think. High stakes, high rewards, and even back then, some internal friction.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting for me.
Yeah.
SpaceX. Founded in 2002. This is where the legend truly begins, isn't it? He poured his own money into it, dreaming of Mars, and nearly went bankrupt. The critical turning point was just utterly dramatic.
Oh, indeed. His first 3 rockets failed, blew up. It was the 4th one, launched just in the nick of time before his personal funds completely ran out, that finally succeeded. And that caught NASA's attention. Now, SpaceX is valued at a staggering $180 billion, launching satellites, ferrying astronauts, building Starship, his ultimate Mars rocket. So maybe the key insight here isn't either when we ask if it's genius or risk addiction. Maybe his genius is his risk addiction, that willingness to operate right at the brink of collapse, which, while probably terrifying, has unlocked breakthroughs others wouldn't dare attempt. It's kind of defined a new paradigm of entrepreneurial leadership, maybe.
Interesting way to put it. Then there's Tesla, which he joined in 2004 after its founding, right? And eventually took over. It's now the most valuable automaker in the world. He didn't invent the electric car, obviously, but he certainly made it cool, fast, and global, didn't he? Pushing the whole industry into a new era.
Yeah, that ability to identify a niche, then push it to an extreme, often through sheer force of will and, like we said, significant personal risk. It's a consistent theme. And beyond these giants, he has some forward-looking and sometimes kind of quirky ventures.
Like Neuralink, aiming for brain chips to merge humans with AI, which sounds intense. Controversial animal trials eventually led to human trials beginning in 2024. Then there's the Boring Company tunnels, flamethrowers, hyperloops. Our sources note it's often more spectacle than success, but it certainly keeps him in the headlines.
And of course, we have to talk about the acquisition of Twitter, now known as X. He bought it for $44 billion in 2022 and swiftly made just dramatic changes, firing thousands of people, reinstating controversial figures who'd been banned.
Yeah, supporters call this a stand for free speech, but critics argue he basically broke it. Citing things like dropped engagement, a rise in hate speech, the overall observation from our sources seems to be just chaos reigned. It makes you wonder if that chaos is a feature, not a bug, in his leadership style, you know?
Which brings us right to the core of it, doesn't it? The mind of Musk. Is he truly a techno-visionary, or is he, as some people argue, a narcissist? Maybe both.
You see his erratic tweeting, right? The promise is made years before delivery sometimes, and his apparent thriving on chaos. He famously called himself a war general, not a peacetime CEO. But what does that really mean for how he operates these massive companies day to day? Does it explain the constant upheaval, the chaos reigning that our sources talk about?
I think it offers a lot of insight, actually. A war general isn't focused on, maintaining the status quo. They're focused on rapid, disruptive campaigns. And that seems evident in his relentless work ethic, sleeping only, 5 hours a night while running multiple huge companies. And then there's his intellectual curiosity, like his fascination with simulation theory, where he believes there's a high chance we live in a computer game. It's a mindset that questions fundamental reality, which perhaps enables him to envision and pursue such radical transformative projects in the first place.
So public perception is just sharply divided. Fans see him as Iron Man, right? The real-life Tony Stark. While critics see a megalomaniac with too much power. By age 53, he's disrupted finance, space, transportation, media. He certainly changed the world in major ways. But this raises a really important question. At what cost?
Exactly. Because beneath the genius and the vision, there's what our sources refer to as the darkness. unpacking the criticisms and the negative impacts of his operations and even his personal life.
We're talking about things like labor violations at Tesla factories, specific allegations of racial abuse, worker injuries, firings over union talk. Our sources point to like a landmark lawsuit where a jury awarded millions for racial harassment. It seems to underscore systemic issues within parts of his empire.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, there's that interesting AI paradox, isn't there?
Yeah.
He warns about the risks of artificial general intelligence, AGI, basically human level or superhuman AI, while simultaneously building his own AI firm, XAI. It's a fascinating tightrope walk between warning everyone and then building the very thing.
Yeah, it is. Then there's the undeniable Twitter X toxicity, the issues of misinformation, bullying, political manipulation on the platform. That's becoming a huge concern. Beyond just the general issues, our sources detail specific instances where changes under his leadership led to a significant increase in reported hate speech incidents, for example, or the amplification of certain narratives impacting democratic discourse globally.
And let's not forget the personal cost, the family strain we touched on, including his estranged father, reports of feuding siblings, children whose lives he keeps very private, even as he speaks publicly about population collapse. Our sources kind of conclude this section by observing his consistent tendency to court drama, to provoke, and sometimes to just break things, including institutions.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it's just crystal clear that Elon Musk is an incredibly complex, often contradictory figure. He's a visionary, a disruptor, someone profoundly shaped by his past, and undeniably controversial. He's pushed the boundaries of what's possible, sometimes right to the brink, and sometimes arguably beyond it.
He really embodies the extremes of ambition and innovation, doesn't he? With a public and private life that seems to mirror the grand scales of his ventures, his impact is just undeniable. But the methods and the consequences are often fiercely debated, leaving us with a truly multifaceted portrait at the end of the day.
So considering everything we've unpacked today, the brilliance, the chaos, the ambition, the controversy, what does Elon Musk's journey truly tell us about the future of technology, innovation, and leadership in our world? And maybe more importantly, what responsibilities come with such immense power? Something for you to mull over as you go about your day.
Okay, let's get started. We're kicking things off with something that, well, it might just surprise you. It challenges a pretty common assumption.
Oh. Which one is that?
Who actually founded Tesla? You know, most people, they immediately picture one guy.
Right. The narrative is pretty strong on that one.
But the truth, according to the sources we've looked at, is that Tesla was actually founded back in 2003 by Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning.
Yeah, not quite the solo genius story many people think of. It's interesting how that origin story evolved.
It really is. Elon Musk, he came in later as a lead investor. That was 2004.
Leading a pretty hefty $6.5 million Series A round. Became chairman then.
And then, CEO by 2008. That was after, well, let's call it a significant fallout with Eberhard and Tarpenning.
It was definitely turbulent. And you almost feel like that rocky start kind of baked something into Tesla's early DNA, That's
a really good way to put it. So today we're doing a deep dive into this fascinating, incredibly complex, and often controversial world of Tesla.
It's definitely more than just cars.
Oh, absolutely. It's this disruptive force, really, across tech, energy, even shaping culture in some ways. So our mission here is to sort of navigate this rich stack of sources we have from those very first moments, the founding, right through to their, let's say, bold future plans, and also touch on the criticisms, because there are quite a few.
Definitely need to cover those.
Yeah. The goal is really to pull out the most important bits of knowledge so you can quickly get a handle on what makes Tesla so, unique and impactful. And all this comes from some really comprehensive materials detailing their journey.
Okay, sounds good. And thinking about that early vision back with Eberhard and Tarpenning, it was genuinely revolutionary for the time.
How so?
Well, the core idea was just to prove, flat out, that electric cars could be better. Faster, cooler, cleaner than gas cars.
Which seems obvious now, maybe, but back then?
Back then, there was huge skepticism about EVs. Massive. This was a direct, pretty audacious challenge to that whole mindset.
And what a challenge it turned out to be. That ambition, though, it really hit its first big test with the Roadster, right? The Roadster era, roughly 2008 to 2012.
That's right, the 2008 Roadster. Built on a Lotus Elise chassis, which was clever.
Yeah, it gave it that sporty look.
Exactly. And it was a huge leap, the first highway-legal, all-electric car using a lithium-ion battery pack.
And the range, get this, around 244 miles back then.
Which was groundbreaking, absolutely. But despite that innovation, it wasn't exactly smooth sailing. Not at all.
No.
What happened?
Well, it was just plagued by significant production issues, really difficult to build, and it came incredibly close to bankrupting the company.
Especially during the 2008 financial crash, right? Terrible timing.
Exactly, a perfect storm. And that's actually when Musk stepped in personally, investing millions of his own money just to keep Tesla alive. A real make-or-break moment.
So, when you look back at that really intense early history, what does it truly tell you about Tesla? What's baked into its character from that? I think it shows, this potent mix, profound ambition, definitely, but also this history of near collapse, of surviving crisis.
And deep personal commitment, like Musk putting his own cash on the line.
Right. That whole experience, ambition, near death, survival, it feels like that DNA really shaped what came next. That carried through to the model revolution.
Ah, yes, the model revolution. Kicking off with the Model S in 2012. Now that was a game changer.
Absolutely stunned the world. A luxury sedan, yes, but one that just reset expectations for performance, tech, safety in an EV.
I mean, the huge touchscreen interface. It felt so futuristic.
And the over-the-air software updates, like getting a new car overnight, really was like an iPhone on wheels, as people said.
Though some people did point out, the high price tag initially. Was it truly revolutionary for everyone? Or just for the wealthy early adopters?
That's a fair point. It was definitely a top-down strategy. Start luxury, build the brand, fund the next step.
And it worked, didn't it? It won Motor Trend's Car of the Year.
It did. And it pushed range over 300 miles, breaking another barrier. Then came the Model X in 2015, the SUV.
With those falcon wing doors.
Yeah.
Very distinctive.
Very distinctive, maybe sometimes problematic. It also introduced the first version of autopilot. But yeah, the reception was mixed. People loved the innovation, but
criticized for reliability. Especially those doors.
Exactly. There were definitely teething problems.
And if you follow that timeline, the Model 3 in 2017, that feels like the critical moment.
Oh, absolutely make or break. This was meant to be the affordable Tesla, the one for the masses. Its success was vital for the company's survival.
And it led to that infamous production hell.
Yes. By all accounts, a period that pushed Tesla right to the edge again. Musk himself described it that way.
But they got through it. And now
the Model 3 is the best-selling EV in the world. Quite the turnaround story.
Incredible. And then the Model Y followed in 2020.
Right. The compact crossover SUV, built on the Model 3 platform, shares about 75% of its parts, which is very efficient.
And that quickly became Tesla's top seller. Right?
Yep. It did indeed.
So looking at this whole sequence, S, X, 3, Y, what really stands out is not just the innovation, but that strategy. Starting high-end, proving the concept, then driving down market.
It was audacious. It legitimized EVs in a way nobody else had managed.
And it completely forced the hand of legacy automakers. They had to scramble.
Precisely. It fundamentally reshaped the entire industry's view on electric.
Okay, but here's where the story gets even bigger, right? Because Tesla insists it's not just about cars.
Right. Musk's quote is famous. Tesla is not just a car company. It's an energy plus AI company.
They're aiming much higher, tackling these huge systemic challenges.
That's the core of the vision, absolutely. And the foundation for scaling that vision, a huge part of it is battery technology.
The gigafactories.
Exactly. Nevada, Berlin, Shanghai, Texas. These aren't just car plants. They're churning out millions of batteries. It's about massive scale.
And they're innovating there too, right? Not just assembling.
Very much so. They're designing their own cells, like the 4680 cells, aiming to improve range and, crucially, bring down costs. That vertical integration is a huge potential advantage.
Okay, so batteries are one pillar. Then there's the AI side. Autopilot and full self-driving, FSD.
Yeah, and it's important we distinguish those. Autopilot is, it's an advanced driver assist system, like really good cruise control with steering assist.
Lane keeping, adaptive cruise, that sort of thing.
Right. Full self-driving, or FSD, that's the moonshot. The goal is complete autonomy, no driver needed.
But it's still very much in beta, still requires driver attention.
Absolutely, and this is where you see that tension. Musk has repeatedly promised true autonomy is next year, almost every year.
For quite a few years now.
Yes, and regulators, critics, they remain, let's say, skeptical. Given the huge technical hurdles and, of course, the safety implications, it's a massive bet on AI development.
But the ambition doesn't even stop there. There's the energy division.
Right. Tesla Energy, products like the solar roof, the Powerwall home battery systems.
So integrating energy generation and storage for homes.
Exactly, offering a whole home energy solution. And the stated goal, which is kind of mind-blowing, is for Tesla to eventually become a sort of decentralized global utility.
Wow. A decentralized global utility. Okay. Based on the sources, how realistic does that seem? I mean, considering the regulations, the existing energy giants?
It's certainly a monumental goal. The sources suggest it's a very long-term play, not something happening overnight. But the strategy is clear.
What's really striking here is just the sheer breadth of it all. Energy, AI, transport. It's far beyond just making electric cars.
It really underscores that energy plus AI company statement. The vision is truly expansive.
Of course, with that kind of rapid growth, that kind of disruption, you inevitably get bumps in the road, criticisms, controversies.
Tesla has definitely had its share, yes. Safety is a big one, particularly around autopilot.
There have been several crashes, sadly involving autopilot, that have sparked intense investigations.
And it's gone beyond just news reports. Both the NHTSA, that's the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and the Department of Justice have opened formal probes into Tesla's safety claims related to autopilot.
That's serious scrutiny.
Very serious. It highlights the risks and the regulatory focus.
Then you have the labor issues. There have been ongoing accusations.
Yes, allegations about union-busting efforts, claims of racism, and concerns raised about unsafe working conditions, particularly at the Fremont, California factory.
These are significant challenges, especially for a company scaling up so fast. It raises questions about, well, the human cost of that growth sometimes.
It definitely does. It's a side of the rapid innovation story that needs acknowledging. And then there's the financial scrutiny.
Ah, yes, the stock price, the valuation.
Critics often accuse Musk of, let's say, using stock price manipulation tactics, making these incredibly bold promises, some say wild promises, and leveraging hype cycles to keep Tesla's valuation sky high.
Kind of like relying on the narrative as much as the numbers.
That's the accusation. However, it's really important to add the counterbalance here.
Which is?
Tesla has actually posted multiple quarters of real profit since 2020. So, while the valuation methods are debated, the company is making money now.
That's a crucial point. So, when you take all this and the safety probes, labor issues, financial questions, what's the takeaway?
Well, I think it shows that this kind of disruptive growth, this level of innovation, it almost always comes with intense scrutiny and real challenges. It's vital for anyone trying to understand Tesla to see this full picture, warts and all, not just the shiny highlights.
Absolutely. You need the whole story. Okay, let's look ahead. Yeah. Tesla's global footprint is just, wow, expanding incredibly fast.
Aggressively. The Gigafactory network is key to that. Massive factories, as we mentioned, in the U.S., Texas specifically, Germany, Berlin, China, Shanghai.
And now Mexico is under construction too. It's a truly global manufacturing web.
It is. Yeah. And the product pipeline is just as ambitious. We're still tracking the long-delayed Cybertruck.
The stainless steel pickup. Very angular.
Yes. That's now apparently set to hit mass market production in 2025. We'll see.
Then there's the Tesla Semi.
Right. The electric truck for logistics. That's actually in limited production already, being used by some companies.
And then things get really futuristic. The Tesla robot. Optimus?
Yeah, Optimus, the humanoid robot prototype. The vision there is for it to eventually assist with or even take over manual labor tasks. Still very much R&D, but ambitious.
To say the least. Plus, there's still talk of that long-promised $25,000 EV, the truly affordable Tesla.
That's been talked about for years, still officially unconfirmed, but it remains a huge point of interest and speculation. A potential game changer if it happens.
So just to give people a sense of scale right now, sort of a snapshot as of 2025, where does Tesla stand?
Okay, roughly speaking, market cap hovering around, say, $800 billion, give or take market fluctuations, of course.
Still huge.
Immense. Annual revenue approaching $120 billion. Vehicles delivered over 2 million per year now. Employees around 140,000 globally. And the supercharger network, critical infrastructure, over 50,000 stalls worldwide.
Those numbers are just staggering. When you look at that global expansion, the future products, robots, maybe cheaper cars. What's the big picture strategy? Feels like more than just selling vehicles.
Oh, it's definitely an ecosystem play. It shows this ambitious roadmap towards an integrated energy and AI future, where the cars are just one piece of a much larger puzzle.
The sheer scale is hard to wrap your head around sometimes.
It really is. The numbers give you that concrete sense of just how massive Tesla has become and the scope of what they're still trying to achieve.
Okay, let's talk legacy.
Yeah.
Because undeniably, Tesla has left a massive mark already. They fundamentally transformed the car industry.
No question. They didn't just introduce EVs. They crucially made EVs desirable. Cool, even.
Right. Performance tech style. It wasn't just about being green.
Exactly. And that forced the hand of all the legacy automakers. They had to completely switch gears, accelerate their own EV plans dramatically.
You see it everywhere now. Ford, GM, BMW, VW, everyone has aggressive EV strategies.
Directly because of the pressure and the market validation that Tesla created, the entire competitive landscape shifted.
And then there's the stock, TSLA. It became almost a cult.
It really did have that feeling, captivating everyone from, individual traders on Reddit all the way up to the biggest Wall Street institutions. It's often traded more on belief and future potential than traditional metrics.
More than just an investment for many, it's like a belief system.
It has elements of that, certainly. And interwoven with all of this, you absolutely cannot separate Tesla from the Elon Musk factor.
No, his personal brand is completely tied up with the company's success, isn't it?
Inextricably linked. He's seen by many as this visionary leader, inspiring incredible loyalty, driving innovation, attracting investment. But that also makes him, at times, arguably its biggest liability. His public statements, his other ventures, the controversies, they directly impact the company's perception and sometimes its stock price.
A double-edged sword.
Very much so.
Yeah. So this is where it all kind of comes together, right? Tesla isn't just a company. It's this whole phenomenon. It's reshaped a global industry, captured the public imagination.
For better or worse, yeah.
And so much of that is tied to the singular figure at the helm. It's a really unique story in modern business history.
It truly is. A kind of blueprint for radical disruption, maybe, complete with all the massive wins and the significant turbulence along the way.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it seems abundantly clear. Tesla is way more than just a car company.
Oh, yeah. It's trying to be a climate company. It's a huge bet on AI. It's a hardware giant, manufacturing at incredible scale.
And it's become this powerful symbol of Silicon Valley ambition and risk-taking.
Absolutely. And, whether Musk and Tesla ultimately succeed in everything, they're aiming for ubiquitous self-driving, robots doing our chores, dominating clean energy.
Which are still huge ifs.
Huge ifs. But one thing is already undeniable. Tesla already changed the world once. They forced the electrification of transport.
So the final thought, the question that lingers is, can it do it again? Can it achieve these even grander ambitions in energy and AI without falling apart under the weight of it all?
That's the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it?
Something for all of us to think about as we watch what happens next. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into a company that's really changed the game in space exploration. We're talking about SpaceX. Our mission really is to unpack their story. From those really audacious beginnings through to the groundbreaking stuff they're doing now. And of course, look at that huge vision they have for the future. We've got a great stack of sources here, including some really interesting bits from SpaceX, pioneering the future of space exploration and capitalism.
Yeah, and what's so compelling, I think, is this mix you see with SpaceX. It's like impossible ambition meets incredible engineering. They've really challenged how we even think about space travel, haven't they? It's
an amazing story. And digging into the sources, it's pretty clear. Elon Musk wasn't just, starting another tech company back in 2002. He put $100 million of his own money into it, all driven by this huge mission, make life multiplanetary.
What was it about that specific vision, do you think, that set them apart right from the start? Well, that vision was absolutely central. This deep-seated belief that humanity's survival long-term depends on colonizing Mars. And to do that, they had to start basically from scratch. I mean, picture this. Engineers literally building rockets in a rented warehouse. Their first rocket, Falcon 1, named after the Millennium Falcon, which kind of tells you something about the mindset, right? That sci-fi ambition.
And those early days sound incredibly difficult. I mean, this wasn't an easy ride at all.
Oh, far from it. It's actually kind of amazing how close they came to